Blessed to serve as the Economic Development Director for Union County and Marysville. And tonight we're going to present some findings to you around an economic development strategy and what it means for the community. So there's going to be a lot of data, a lot of information as well. But we appreciate you coming tonight and participating in this meeting. There will be time for Q&A at the end. As well as they go through the presentation and give you information. This document will be taken to a few bodies to be approved at some point, so this is work in progress. We will take this to our city council and to our county commissioners for their consideration. In addition, we have a Community Improvement Corporation, which is our economic development board. They will hopefully consider adopting this, as well as our Port Authority, which is another finance agency that we utilize. But again, thank you for coming. I want to talk briefly about the process, how we got here. So we started a process, and I've been here for now 25 years. We've done 4 updates. This is our 4th update. We did one in 2003. We did one in 2015. They're usually done every 5 to 10 years just to update how you want to attract businesses to your community. That's the primary purpose of this and what types of businesses. And then we updated in 2018 based on smart mobility related to the 33 Smart Mobility Corridor. And then this is the update. So this is the 4th update to our strategy. And so we had a steering committee during that process. We had Bill Narducci. Bill's here tonight that participated on that. We had Terry from Union County Administrator. Terry Emery, the city manager for the city of Marysville, participated as part of that steering committee. Scott Brock, who is the president, now past president of the Community Improvement Corporation, and then Greg Shaynard, who is the president of the Port Authority, were all participants, along with Inga Witt, who's back in the room for economic development, all participated and worked with the consultant to get where we are today. Additionally, there were over 100 stakeholders that we held meetings in November that provided input. They involved developers, brokers, political leadership, citizens, students. We had students participate as well. So there was a number of different stakeholders over a 2-day period that participated and provided input. The consultant also met with Jobs Ohio, met with One Columbus, our regional economic development partners, and then also we conducted a survey and received almost 1,800 responses, resident survey responses in that. So there's been a lot of input. If you participate in any of that, we greatly appreciate your input in that to making this plan better. Through that process, and when we started this process, we had 24 proposals. We narrowed it down to 4. I think we interviewed 3, and then we hired Boyette to do this, strategic advisors to do this, and we're happy with the work. We're excited about this opportunity to bring this forward tonight, and I'm talking way too much, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dell and Tracy to introduce themselves and to talk about the strategy. Dale.
You've talked so much, I don't have anything else to say but to introduce Tracy. Why don't you, Tracy, click to the next slide. We did have 1,800 plus participants, which is pretty remarkable, actually. We sat down and visited with over 100 stakeholders individually, but we gave everyone the opportunity to participate in this process. And what we heard, there's 2 quotes that I want to put up here that basically we heard iterations of these statements several times throughout the process. This plan must meet the needs and desires of the entire county. Keyword there, entire county. And this strategy must meet the goal of providing more resources and better quality of life to the community. So hopefully, as we go through this plan, it's Tracy Sharp, who led this project, who's CEO of our company. And I have to mention Riley McCorston. He's sitting over here. He's been with us 5 years. And he gets tired of hearing this joke. But for some reason, I say it every time. He may look 14, but he's not 14. He's been us. He has a master's in urban planning. He's a smart young man. And the 3 of us are the ones that have been driving this project from our firm's perspective. We don't take this work lightly. We appreciate the opportunity to do this work. We will be very disappointed if Union County, Marysville doesn't implement this strategic plan, because it's very important that you approach economic development like the people in this county want to approach economic development. And you've been given the opportunity to participate in the process. We listen to you throughout the process, and you've got a very good strategic plan for economic development that will help you move forward for the next 5 years. So thank you very much again for the opportunity. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Sharp. And there will be time for a Q&A at the end. Tracy will come down here and we will attempt to answer any question that you have. Thank you again very much.
Okay, thank you, Dell. I think my mic's on. Seems to be working. Yeah, I got a thumbs up. Okay, thank you. It's good to see everyone tonight. Thank you for coming out. I know it's kind of a little bit of a rainy day today, but we're glad that you're here and look forward to sharing this with you. We've been working on this for a while now, probably about, I think, 6 months approximately. And like Dell and Eric alluded to, we've talked to a lot of people, gotten a lot of good input, looked at a lot of data. Some of that data you see here. So Dell and Eric both alluded to the stakeholder engagement, the significant stakeholder engagement that we did. And 1,800 people participated in that, as they said. We also did some benchmark research on 6 communities that are listed here at the top, comparing them to Marysville. And one of the reasons we wanted to show this to you is because Marysville, as you can see from this data perspective, looked very well compared to these benchmark communities. We selected these benchmark communities because we felt like, well, we had a discussion with the core team, and between the two groups of us, we put our heads together and we're looking for communities that were either aspirational from an economic development perspective and or some that are similar or, that have been having some really good success that you wanted to potentially emulate in the future. And so that was why we looked at them. And we started out looking just at data, but then we looked at many other things, programmatic things that maybe could be a fit for Union County, Marysville in the future. But again, like I mentioned on the data side, you guys have had significant population growth, 16% in the past 5 years. And as you see, some of these other communities, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and Smyrna, Smyrna's had 17 and Murfreesboro's had 13.3. So of the communities that we looked at here, you guys were third in that measure. Similarly, on median household income, you were the third highest when compared to all of these communities. Poverty rate, another one. In this case, you want to be lower, obviously, and you guys were the third lowest. Housing affordability, as you see on this note, the higher score means housing is more affordable. And I know everybody is concerned about housing these days, and we do have recommendations in the plan to address that. But you guys came out pretty well on the housing affordability index as well compared to some of these other communities we looked at. Same thing on the crime index, down at 42. So you were, in that case, the second best in that category. So we wanted to share that with you just to show you that, yes, some of these communities that you see up here, and there's a lot of detail in our supporting documentation of kind of the programmatic things they've been doing, as well as a couple of examples you'll see later as we go over the plan, but you are doing good things here in Union County, Marysville. You rank very high in these things. You're one of the fastest growing counties in Ohio, as I'm sure you know. And with that, you have a younger, well-educated demographic. You have a strong legacy business base, which is very important. You have a lot going for you. You have a strong FDI base. You have over 20 Japanese companies here, and many from other countries as well. You're becoming and have become a hub for R&D and innovation. And you'll see as we go through this, that really drove a lot of the both target sectors that we identified, as well as the strategies and recommendations that we made. You have all these things going on. You have new and planned mixed-use developments with retail and residential, with the silos, water and light, Jerome Village Market, and others. New business parks with Marysville East, Marysville South. But obviously with that, there's always challenges. When you're developing, when you're growing, there's challenges that will have to be addressed. And hopefully through this plan, from an economic development perspective, you can continue to address those challenges. Okay, so I mentioned that we identified target sector opportunities. And to do that, we first obviously considered what were the targets that you were currently looking at, or the UCED was currently focused on. And then we looked at those, and from that, we looked at your existing business base, we looked at what sectors that you were currently targeting had been growing, and then we looked to see if there were other emerging targets based on the assets in the community that you should be going after in the future, meaning your economic development organization focusing on those opportunities. So we ended up here with 7 target sector opportunities. And we'll start with this. This is, you see, legacy business and industry. I mentioned that before. You have a very great, good base of legacy business and industry, and that needs to continue to be a focus, retaining those legacy business and industry here. Advanced manufacturing and R&D, obviously that's been a stronghold in this community, should continue to be supported. Corporate and regional headquarters, that's, diversification into that area. You have some now, but, focus on that more. Focus more on entrepreneurship and innovation. FDI, you've already been successful in that. That should continue to be a focus. And then again, financial and business services, diversifying the economy a little bit. And then this retail, entertainment, and hospitality. And you'll see later, there's some stats we'll share from the survey, but you guys in that survey really want to see more retail, entertainment, and hospitality in your community or in your county. So related to those target sector opportunities, and sometimes it works, and there it goes. What you see here are the subsectors that we identified under those. And we're going to give you a lot more detail in a minute on this. I'm going to try to hit this high level, but we did what we call target sector profiles for each of the industry sectors or target sector opportunities that we identified. And for each of those, we identified what are the assets of Union County-Marysville that make it a fit, and why should that be a target over the next 5 years that you're focused on. And I don't know if anyone mentioned this, but this is a 5-year strategic plan, just so you know. So you have 5 years to do all the things that we're going to recommend, and you'll see tonight. So starting with legacy business and industry, obviously focusing on agriculture, your existing manufacturers, your existing R&D, small business, your other existing business. That would be a focus. That needs to continue to be a focus. Advanced manufacturing and R&D, your focuses should be on agricultural technologies or ag tech. We know the agricultural community is very important here. Automotive mobility and technologies. You've had a lot of R&D, well, obviously success with automotive, R&D related to that, mobility and technology in general. Life sciences is another one that appears to be a good opportunity moving forward. And then I mentioned corporate and regional headquarters. So again, related to that, it's really focusing on some of these target sector opportunities that we've identified and looking at the corporate headquarters of those types of businesses. And then entrepreneurs and innovators, the focus would be on the ag tech that we previously identified, and then the automotive mobility technologies would be your primary focus, not that you're not going to support other entrepreneurs and small businesses. And then FDI, primarily going to be advanced manufacturing, some in the area of R&D. And then financial and business services, what we're talking about there is asset management, brokerages, investment services, insurance, and other business services. And then retail, entertainment, and hospitality. We did, I should say Riley did, pull some Claritas retail data, and we looked at that in depth to kind of identify what are the gaps in the community or what's showing as a gap, things that are needed based on supply and demand. And these top 4 things that you see here, they're listed alphabetically, but clothing and accessory stores, grocery stores, restaurants, and sporting goods stores were the areas that you had the biggest gap from a retail perspective. So that is why those are focuses here. And then in general, focusing on mixed-use developments that will include housing, office, restaurants, retail, entertainment, and hotels, which are all going to be things you're going to need as you continue to grow here. Okay, so like I mentioned, we have profiles for each of these, and again, I'm going to try to hit them fairly high level, and glad to answer any questions later. Legacy business and industry, you see here, these are just some of the points of why it's a focus. Again, you have a strong existing manufacturing and R&D base, that's kind of obvious. You also have 37,600 legacy employer jobs in the county. It's a growing area, 12% growth in those jobs, 4% projected growth. And well-paying jobs, $76K is the average salary. And then you see some of these select legacy employers that you have in the county. So obviously that needs to continue to be a focus. All right, advanced manufacturing and R&D. Again, Honda's here. Scott's Miracle-Gro's here, Continental's here, Nestle's here. You have a very strong advanced manufacturing base already, as well as a strong R&D base already. I had already pointed out to you what those sector focuses are, so I won't go over that. But some of your local and regional assets are obviously the Honda Research Institute, which is nearby in Columbus, the 99P Labs, your US 33 Smart Mobility Corridor that's been developed, that is home to 70+ automotive and manufacturing firms, and the Beta District as well, and then the Transportation Research Center, which does, as you know, a lot of automotive testing related research and that type of stuff. So all very strong reasons, and there's some more on the next page because you guys had so many good things to talk about that we had to talk about everything. So we won't get into all of this, but I will point out Life Science Ready Community Designation Program. That is something that Union County has recently received the premier designation. So that is a reason we believe that, one of the reasons that we believe that's a good opportunity going forward. And then obviously you have the Automotive and Mobility Innovation Center. You have all this other research through the Vehicle Research and Test Center. You have airport, foreign trade zone. You have Japanese specific company support. These other companies that you see listed here. And then obviously from an infrastructure perspective, you have your connection to I-70. You have your direct access to US 33 and the Smart Mobility Corridor. There's been a lot invested in smart technologies. You have the connection to the John Glenn Airport, the Rickenbacker International Airport. You have a foreign trade zone that offers companies benefits that are located in the area, in that area. The Union County Airport's another asset that has room for expansion potentially. And then there's a potential for passenger rail expansion with a station in Marysville possible that would connect Columbus to Chicago. So those are all great reasons as well. You also have product, which is sites and buildings that are available now. That's something you'll need to continue to monitor, as we will talk about later in the recommendations. And then you obviously have to look at what are the key educational programs that support this sector so that you have the workforce for the sector. And again, you have 30 colleges and universities within a 30-mile radius. That's a big deal, right? You also have a number of career tech institutions you see here. You have STEM schools. You have other programs with Columbus State Community College nearby, Ohio University nearby in Dublin, as well as, can't leave out, the Ohio State University, also located nearby. And then you also have a Japanese language school, which is part of that assistance to Japanese-based companies. So there's a lot of reasons, a lot of good reasons. You'll see some of this duplicated. I will not go over all of that for every single one, but we'll hit it high level going from here on out. Corporate and regional headquarters, a little different. Obviously, what we're talking about there is the central or regional location where a company's executive management and key staff are located. And again, we already talked about the focuses, so I won't go over that again, but it's essentially your other targeted sectors that we talked about. And you already have a number of major corporate and regional headquarters, as you see here. You also have, in the Columbus region itself, 18 Fortune 1000 company headquarters. And then the things that could be attractive to this industry, you have the 33 Smart Mobility Corridor with the gig fiber, 100 gig fiber, and the Beta District and all of these other things, which are places that could be attractive to those types of companies. And then on product, kind of similar thing. And then on infrastructure, we've already talked about a number of these, so similar reasons. But I will point out that you have 470 plus jobs currently in what's called the NAICS code, Management of Companies and Enterprises, and essentially that's corporate and regional headquarters. And you have 3,200 professional services jobs in the county, or in the county. And those are like professional services that would support a corporate headquarters, like law firms and accounting firms and architecture firms, et cetera. And then the wages, very high wages. And that's what you want for a community, to provide jobs for the people that are here. And obviously, you guys, one challenge you have is you have a pretty large out-commuting population. So attracting more of this type of jobs might be able to bring some of those jobs back into the county. And then key educational programs, again, always something you have to look at. These are going to be a little different, but you have a number of universities that have MBA programs, programs in business, programs in computer and information science, economics, accounting, et cetera, and all located within that 30-mile radius, some within 5 miles, some within 25 miles. Okay, and then entrepreneurs and innovators. We think this presents a very big opportunity for you guys. Obviously here, we're talking about startup companies, that type of thing, smaller business. Again, we already talked about the focuses. As you see here, there's 1,700 plus jobs in R&D in the Union County. There's also 2,700 engineering jobs in the Beta District alone. And look at these wages, even higher, $177,000. Also, related to the fact that a subsector focus that we think is a good opportunity under entrepreneur and innovation is ag tech that we talked about before. Obviously, you have 1,000 plus farmers here, 241,000 acres of farmland. About 75% of the land here is crop and pasture land. And then Ohio State University has a number of programs, and as well as the large animal services at Marysville that you have here. So that does a lot of clinical trials here. So you have a lot going on in that area that is why it's a strength. And then the other one is mobility technologies, just related to the 33 Smart Mobility Corridor, some of the things we've already talked about, the Beta District, AMIC, the Transportation Research Center, and 99P Labs, to name a few. Okay, and then also you have a lot of research activity going on that I think I've already alluded to as well, but you've got Honda, Scotts Miracle-Gro, Nestle, and other R&D operations here. You also have the infrastructure to support this sector, similar to the other sectors we talked about. And then last but not least, you have a number of regional, key local and regional support programs that support entrepreneurs and innovators, including AMIC, including Build Space, including the Union County Leadership Institute, Techstar Columbus, Rev1, Noble, which is the network of business leaders and entrepreneurs. And then there's a number of educational programs in the region as well, where the Ohio State University has the Keenan Center for Entrepreneurship, Columbus State Community Colleges has programs in entrepreneurship, and Ohio Wesleyan was one of the #1 entrepreneurial colleges, and then the Point at Otterbein is another regional asset in this area that could support entrepreneurs and innovators. Okay, next is financial and business services. So in this one, 52,000 financial and business services jobs in the Columbus MSA. There's 600 right now in Union County alone, but there's been 18% growth in that over the last 5 years and 9% projected growth over the next 5 years. So that was the reason we feel like this is another kind of opportunity, more in the kind of white collar side of things. And obviously, some of the reasons are those Fortune 1000 company headquarters we mentioned before, but also all of the financial services companies and corporate headquarters that have a presence in Union County and the region. And then a lot of the other assets we've talked about fit this as well. You have available product. We'll continue to need to look at that, but do have available product. You have good infrastructure for this. Couple of other things to point out on the sector side, 36% growth in insurance jobs in Union County over the past 5 years, and 16% growth in portfolio management jobs over the last 5 years, as well as 13% in banking, and again, higher wage jobs for these types of companies. And then same, going back to this, it's similar to corporate and regional headquarters. You've got a lot of MBA programs, accounting type programs, financial type programs that would support this type of sector in the region and in the county. Okay, FDI, talked about this a little. Obviously you have a big base of FDI companies that are already here. And hopefully that will continue, 20 plus Japanese companies, 60 plus Japanese companies along the US 33 Smart Mobility Corridor. Obviously you have Honda, you have the Japan America Society of Central Ohio, JETRO, all these organizations that support these types of companies. Infrastructure, sorry, didn't know that turned so fast. Infrastructure assets are similar to what we've gone over before related to manufacturing, because this is kind of tied to manufacturing. 8,500 plus manufacturing jobs in Union County. I already mentioned and 5,000 of those are automotive jobs in Union County. And the wages for those manufacturing and R&D jobs is $116,000. So again, high-paying jobs. Oop. I feel like I missed a slide. Hold on. I'm going back that way. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and again, this is related, but this mainly focuses on things within manufacturing that would support this type of sector, some of which we've already covered. All right, last but not least, retail, entertainment, and hospitality. Again, we already talked about the focus of that, but a lot of times, with retail, they're looking at different factors. For example, they're going to look at what is your population within a 45-minute drive time, 1.6 million. What is your median household income? The higher the better, right? 102,000 is your median household income in the county. Is your population growing? Yes, 18%. Last 5 years, 16% projected. So all these things are happening. And then you have a number of local and regional assets. There's a lot going on in your Marysville, Uptown, and historic districts. Main Street, Marysville is very active. Go Uptown in Plain City, Richwood's historic downtown, the other municipalities, the US 33 Innovation Corridor and business parks. You have a large concentration of international and business and corporate headquarters. You have Union County tourism. And then product-wise, on a similar note, you have Uptown Marysville. You have some of these new large mixed-use developments with the silos at Water and Light and Jerome Village and Jerome Village Market. And you have 5,500 jobs in this sector in the county. And there's been 17% growth over the past 5 years and 8% projected. So all of those things make it good. And then there's also some workforce talent programs that are related to hospitality, business, baking, culinary, those types of things that could support this sector as well. Okay, so those are the 7 target opportunities that we think should be the focus of the UCED's efforts over the next 5 years. Now, I'm going to say one thing. That doesn't mean that you're not going to hopefully attract other sectors here beyond those, but these are the ones that we think their efforts should be focused on now. So now we're going to jump into the strategic goals of the plan. And again, I'm just going to mention again, this is a 5-year strategic plan, okay? So there's a lot in here, but it will be implemented over a 5-year period. And there are 3 primary strategic goals with strategies under each that you see here. And I'm going to give you a little more detail on each of those in a minute. And there's also many, many, many tactics that go along with this as well. But just to focus on goal 1, increase collaboration and communication efforts. Goal 2, support legacy companies while diversifying business base. Goal 3, enhance livability assets through new development, redevelopment. We think these are the 3 things that need to be the primary focus over the next 5 years. And again, I'm going to give more detail, so I'm going to move on. Making sure people got pictures if they want them. We can come back if you need to. All right, so goal 1, the increased collaboration and communication efforts. One thing we heard a lot during the stakeholder engagement process, many participants said there's a need for increased collaboration with the different entities in the county, including the cities, the townships, the villages, the 7 different school systems, and among other groups. And some also expressed there needs to be better coordination. And so we think this section of the plan, this goal is focused on maybe the UCED continuing to take the lead, working with these partners to encourage more collaboration and communication moving forward. On a different but related note, many stakeholders also felt that residents in the community do not understand necessarily the benefits of economic development, and some are concerned about the recent growth in the county. which, by the way, we hear that a lot these days, everywhere we go, pretty much. So because of that, and the resident survey was a good way to give people the chance to give that input, but more communication is going to be needed there as well. So the first strategy under this goal is align strategies countywide. And you'll see as we go through here, there's some stakeholder quotes in here that relate to the topic that we're going over. But the first thing is form the Ford Union Marysville team. So again, there's a need to kind of bring everybody together, align strategies countywide. And community leaders, both elected and appointed, need to build trust and be willing to work together to support economic development. And so the idea behind this Ford Union Marysville team, it would be formed under the UCED to align those policies around things like development, incentives, infrastructure, housing, other economic development matters, retail development, all of that, housing, et cetera. And the team, though, would include representatives from UCED, the county, all the municipalities, couldn't get that word out, the key townships, et cetera. And then it should also include, partners such as the chamber, such as the Port Authority, the Main Street Marysville, tourism, major employers, representative of the different school districts, among others, and then potentially have someone from One Columbus involved as well, since that's the regional group that you work with. And the idea here would be is this group would meet at least bi-monthly, but it may be necessary to form some smaller action teams to address each of the 3 goals and the 13 strategies in this plan. So the idea at the end of the day is this is the working group, this is the implementation team that's going to be responsible for implementing this plan over the next 5 years. And some of you may be involved in that effort. So that is kind of where the forming that Ford Union Marysville team will be a very important part of this, obviously. Tactic 2, assess future staffing needs of the UCED. Right now, I think 2 and an intern maybe. So over time, there may be a need to have more staff support with the UCED as they're implementing this plan. So it's just something to keep assessing and keep in mind as we move forward, as you move forward. Work with partners to initiate more countywide policies. Again, this is the whole idea of working more together, working together as a community, making sure that policies are aligned across the county, across all the municipalities that are in the county, and around things like zoning, permitting, incentives, fees, other to be determined, but all of those things, and trying to streamline approval for developers and development projects, and working together to make that happen. Assess and stay apprised of discussions related to public sector efficiency, taxing districts, and sharing of resources. I think that pretty much says what it is, but the UCD should also stay aware and support of new funding resources to support economic development moving forward. Okay, next is strategy 2, communicate plan implementation success and other achievements. Plan for and conduct a rollout. Check. We're doing that tonight. This is our rollout presentation of the plan, and we're all very glad you're here. Tactic 2, continue to convene leadership of county, cities, villages, and townships regularly. Again, that goes back to the whole idea of collaboration and communication is going to be very important throughout this process. And I know the UCD leadership and staff already meet with the leadership in the county, but it's continuing to do that, letting them know what's going on with plan implementation, making sure they stay involved and stay in tune to understand what is happening so they continue to support the effort. Tactic 3, meet with leadership and project managers at state and regional groups. That will be other partners that the UCED will need to make this move forward. Utilize social media to introduce the Ford Union Marysville plan and provide regular updates. Make sure that the message is getting out in the community of the things that you guys are doing from an economic development perspective to move things forward. And then develop and present annual summary report of all initiatives and successes. That should obviously be through social media, through the UCED website, and then presented potentially at an annual meeting each year with the partners present, you guys present, and the press as well. Okay, strategy, what did I do? Okay, there we go. So next is tactic 6 under this same strategy: create, monitor, and provide updates on metrics. So we have developed, working with the UCED team, metrics to basically measure success of the plan over the next 5 years. And so we're working with them to finalize those now. I'm sure you'll hear more about that later, but that is something that will be part of what we're delivering. Seek adoption of the Forward Union-Marysville plan. So that is something that we want to make sure happens. And then also seek adoption of the UCED marketing plan, which is another plan that they have put together. All right, then strategy 3, work to inform and address growth concerns. So I mentioned this before. People across the country are concerned about growth, and they're concerned about, what's happening, and it just has to be managed, and there has to be good communications to make that move forward. So provide data to support economic development activities and communicate to residents. Again, we've talked about you're home to many successful large operations. There have been also a lot of large-scale, impactful projects in recent years. There has been some resistance, I think, to some of these. So the idea here is to really be able to provide information, and what we're thinking with that would be impact analysis that shows the impact of that project on the county, and basically getting that message out to residents, to leadership, to et cetera, to let them know what the impact of that project has been. And also making sure people understand kind of how the ins and outs of incentives and that type of thing as well, that sometimes is necessary with projects. Address concerns with speed and type of growth, that's all related. And then continue to proactively communicate economic development success. Again, that is just letting everyone know, leadership, residents, et cetera, these are the economic development successes we're having, this is what we're doing, making sure people are informed. Okay, let's try again. I don't know what just happened. Okay, support legacy companies while diversifying business base. This is another thing we heard during the stakeholder engagement process. We heard that many felt that there was an over-reliance on a few major employers in the county for jobs, and there was lack of job diversity. And many mentioned there's not enough professional jobs, hence why corporate headquarters and financial and business services and entrepreneurship is a focus. And most professionals leave the county for work each day. I think the percentage is around 77% out commuting. So that's something that does need to be addressed. But with that said, like I've said before, is the importance of retaining existing or legacy business in the county cannot be understated. You have to continue to do that while you try to diversify your business base, focused on those target sector opportunities. All right, so tactic 1, under strategy 1, embrace legacy business, continue to conduct annual retention visits with legacy businesses. This is something that the UCED already does. They need to continue to do that. They currently do, I think, 25 large company visits a year. They will continue to do that. They'll also continue to meet with smaller companies as well, and then continue to conduct regular visits with new projects. So when you have a new project locating, the UCD will continue to maintain regular engagement with them to make sure that project comes to fruition. And that could be a manufacturing project, an R&D project, a corporate headquarters, or it could be a mixed-use development. And then continue to provide support to Japanese companies. Continue to host Crafted in Union County, which is a great program that does support manufacturing in the community, and by exposing high school seniors to the field. And then continue to explore partnership opportunities with CSCC Manufacturing Solutions and Central Ohio Manufacturing Partnership. And so the idea here is to continue to create workforce training, retention, and recruitment, address any challenges that legacy manufacturers are having by working with these partners. Okay, and then tactic 6 is continue to plan for industrial product development. Like I said, you have industrial product, but you've got to continue to plan for the future, because if you want to continue to get that R&D, get that FDI, attract those companies here, you're going to have to continue to plan for that. And then support healthcare sector growth. Obviously, Memorial Health and other medical facilities here and in the region are very important. You want to have good health care to provide your residents and companies that locate here. And so the deal here is just to continue to meet with them, make sure their needs are being met from the perspective of physician recruitment, talent recruitment, et cetera, and publicize the growth that they're having. I know there's been a number of expansions of Memorial Health and some of their hospitals recently, hospital facilities, I should say. Okay, increase FDI focus and activities, obviously related to your FDI sector, promote FDI success, develop an FDI asset map showing where the assets are for FDI, where are those companies now, and make sure people see that. Continue to engage with partners on FDI business recruitment, so continuing to work with different organizations, Jobs Ohio, One Columbus, in actually going after companies for foreign direct investment into Union County, Marysville, and the other municipalities. Track and report information on global or FDI investments. And sure, that's a metric. It is a metric for this plan. Okay, support existing and attract more R&D operations. As we said, R&D we think is a major opportunity for you. So work to understand and support the existing R&D efforts here. Understand what the existing R&D companies are doing here. Make sure you publicize that. Look at what the other things are happening in the region with organizations like the Transportation Research Center, the Center for Automotive Research at the Ohio State University. Look at all these things, the AgTech Innovation Hub at OSU. And the UCD should meet with representatives of these companies and organizations regularly to ensure there's an understanding of what they're doing from an R&D perspective and how you guys can potentially capitalize off of that. And then similarly, develop an R&D asset map that shows all the relevant research centers that are here. Make sure that's marketed. And then leverage OSU R&D activities in agri-science and seek future partnerships. Again, OSU has the Center, I'm going to get the name wrong, the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Science, or CFAES. That school does a number of research in the area of food, agriculture, and environmental sustainability. They have more than 400 active research projects. And so related to the research going on there, related to agricultural technologies, which, by the way, includes anything from precision agriculture, which may involve GPS, drones, and sensors used in farming to track soil health, manage crops, et cetera. Automated machines for planting, harvesting, milking to increase speed. Controlled environmental agriculture, which includes technologies such as indoor vertical farming. And then farm management software and data analytics, which can analyze data to assist with optimizing logistics as well as predicting climate risk. So partner with OSU CFAES, OSU AgTech Innovation Hub, VMC Large Animal Services in Marysville to assess future partnership opportunities to bring more of that AgTech R&D here that can be helpful both to your existing farming base and also to your entrepreneurs and innovators. And then leverage OSU R&D activities and mobility technologies and seek future partnerships. OSU invests about $100 million annually in research to advance those next generation mobility systems. And I mentioned before the OSU Center for Automotive Research, or CAR, in the College of Engineering spends about $14 million on R&D annually. And then, of course, Union County itself has a lot of things going on in the area of mobility research. So the idea here is to really leverage that, seek future partnerships with OSU, as well as form an automotive mobility consortium that would support research along the corridor utilizing AMIC as its base. And so this would obviously have representatives of AMIC, representatives of the Beta Center, Beta District, Council of Government members, and Lextant. And they would come together and really focus on supporting new research activity related to connected autonomous vehicles along the US 33 Smart Mobility Corridor, as well as within the Beta District. Okay. Strategy 4, related to corporate headquarters and R&D and other white-collar targets. I think one thing that's going to need to happen is inventory and market that office product. Need to understand where the opportunities are for that in the county, and Eric and team may already know that. Continue targeted corporate headquarters visitation programs. So the idea here is to go visit corporate headquarters locations that are outside Union County of companies that have presence in Union County, and basically visit with the headquarters location to let them know how important that company is, that you want that company to continue to grow. And so that's what we're recommending here. And then identify markets and messaging for headquarters recruitment, including an asset map related to that. And I think we've helped you do that with the profile that we created, but an asset map related to the headquarters assets would be an addition to that. And then partner with One Columbus and Jobs Ohio related to financial and business services attraction. Finance and fintech and insurance are a focus, and InsurTech for One Columbus, and financial services is Jobs Ohio. So UCD should partner with them on that to attract more companies to this area as well. And then enhance support programs for entrepreneurs and startups. Recreate an initiative to support entrepreneurs and startups. So basically, there's a need for a central resource where entrepreneurs and innovators can go for information and assistance and support here. The focus should really be technology, but we've talked about specifically ag tech, mobility technology, as previously referenced. We came up with a few names. I don't know if you guys would like them, but I'll just say them. An initiative could be called Upstart Union, Startup Union Marysville, Innovate Union Marysville, Accelerate Union Marysville, or another name to be determined. And it could potentially at least temporarily be housed at AMIC under the UCD, but may eventually need its own state-of-the-art facility as it grows. And then understand, promote, and leverage state, regional, and OSU entrepreneurial support programs. So Jobs Ohio has several programs. Rev 1 is a venture studio in Columbus that assists startups. The Tim and Kathleen Keenan Center for Entrepreneurship at OSU is focused on student entrepreneurs. UCED should meet with all of these partners in the region and the state to gain a better understanding of the programs and services offered and make sure that the entrepreneurs here understand that what's available. And then develop entrepreneurial support programs. So once the organization is up and running, additional programs should be developed that provide opportunities for entrepreneurs and startups to network, to be mentored, and receive education and training. And so we've got a couple of examples here from our benchmarking. So Startup Columbus is out of Columbus, Georgia, and they are obviously it's a startup organization focused on, helping startups go to the next level. It provides access to co-working incubation at their collab mentoring workshops and networking. They have Cultivate, which is a 6-month program, 10-week curriculum for entrepreneurs that are launching or scaling. They have a biz pitch competition, which is a local pitch event where entrepreneurs present ideas for prizes. They recently launched Retail Lab, which is an incubator designed for retail-focused small businesses. And then Shine, which is supporting highly innovative and new entrepreneurs as a yearly pitch competition for high school students. So it's basically having programs that create that culture to support the entrepreneur here. And those are just a few examples. We have another one here. I'll just hit on high level. Fresh Start Cherokee. We use that one because we did work there, but they've been very successful in their programs as well, having Fresh Start morning classes for startups, 4-week Launchpad boot camp, mentorship, lunch circuit, 1 Million Cups, which is a national program, but they have a Cherokee program that helps connect entrepreneurs and share ideas. Now let's see if I can make this thing go backwards. Should be fun. There we go. Okay. And then Tactic 4 is the only one we didn't cover. Understand existing entrepreneur education programs and support expansion. So again, this is the idea of creating that culture of entrepreneurship at a young age. So first, understand what are the existing entrepreneurial programs available in the county at the K through 12 level, and then working with the definitely middle and high school level to create programs for students to learn how to start a business, and then partnering with the regional STEM schools, such as Maryville's Early College, High School, and others to be identified. Okay, And then 5, and this would be probably a little farther down the line after you've done these other things, but explore development of an angel network. Obviously, in an entrepreneurial ecosystem, you've got to have funding for these entrepreneurs to continue to grow and develop. So consider creation of an angel network in Union County-Marysville. We did have an example from Columbus, Georgia, which was one of those benchmarks called the Columbus Angel Network. It was created in 2022 to focus on early high-stage, high-growth ventures with typical local investors investing between $5,000 to $100,000 with a large target investment size for startups of $150,000 to $350,000. It involves investment into local startups and operates as an exclusive investment hub. So that is one idea of how you can do that. There are other ways to do it as well. And then consider incentives to support startups. You know, as you go down, startups require different incentives than larger companies. They may want free or reduced rent cost. They may want some type of cash grant, et cetera. And then include section of entrepreneurship on the UCD website so people know where to go to get information. And then obviously track and report entrepreneurial success. That will be part of those metrics that we mentioned earlier. All right, and then infrastructure. I'm going to go over this one pretty fast, but you've always got to keep up with infrastructure and potential, and really when you're a high growth community, you definitely do. You guys have done a pretty good job at that so far, but that has to continue. So address identified business challenges and opportunities. Again, infrastructure, somebody said infrastructure is lacking in the northern part of the county. Somebody said transportation can be challenging. There's no public transportation options. That's obviously something that is being worked on regionally. But continue to address those potential infrastructure challenges. You have to stay on top of that. Work with partners to explore alternative forms of future electricity production. Explore innovative tools to fund infrastructure projects. And that could be the establishment of additional new community authorities, which I assume you guys all know is a public-private partnership that can be used to finance, develop, and operate public infrastructure. And then the use of tax increment financing is another way you can fund that infrastructure. So partner to understand and address transportation challenges. Again, there is the Union County Transportation Advisory Committee is already in place. Used to be, I think, the UC Moves Coalition. So basically we're saying here is for the UCD to partner with them, support their efforts, and they are working on potentially addressing these transportation issues in the county. And then also getting involved with Columbus Link Us plan to improve public transit in the Central Ohio region and continue to monitor and support potential plans for passenger rail expansion. And then another thing related to transportation is to pursue funding under the Transportation Improvement District Program, which comes from the state of Ohio that can promote transportation-related projects. And then approve the UCD Economic Development Incentive Policy. You know, when companies are locating, they typically expect some type of local investment in the project. And so that you guys have a good incentive policy, but you've come up with a new one that needs to be approved. Assess need for workforce talent gap analysis of some target sectors. Another thing you got to make sure that you have is the talent to support all of these sectors we're telling you to focus on. R&D, corporate regional headquarters, financial business services, particularly those on the white collar side, because you've obviously been very successful on the manufacturing and R&D side to date. And so we do know that in the past, the UCD has partnered with Bowling Green State University Center for Regional Development in Bowling Green, Ohio, and Logan County to develop workforce analytics reports so they can partner with them again to hopefully make sure that the workforce talent for these sectors is available. And then pursue development of hotel conference centers. Again, I think there's a need here to attract one or more large full-service hotel or conference center projects, both to support legacy business and the attraction of the other recommended target sectors, as well as your tourism sector as well. And we do talk later about the possibility of a development of an indoor-outdoor sports facility, which would be on that tourism side of things. So a hotel conference center should be something that should be a focus. And obviously, that would be working with Union County Tourism on that. Tactic 9, Market Automotive and Mobility Innovation Center as a business event center. All right, goal 3, We're almost there, guys. Thanks for staying with us. Enhance livability assets through new development, redevelopment. And I'm just going to show this quote, and it'll introduce this to you in the proper way. Of 1,700 residents survey respondents, nearly 78% would like to see more retail, commercial, and/or mixed-use development in Union County, Marysville. So I alluded to that before, but that is a really large number. Really large number. And so that is why this whole section is more or less focused on new development, redevelopment, potentially around mixed use, potentially around this idea of retail, commercial, et cetera. So first, partner to identify potential development areas. The idea here would be, where should these pockets of development be for these types of mixed use type housing, retail, office, et cetera, that we're talking about. And really it should be, focused probably more around your city centers and around your municipality, township centers. And then obviously you're going to preserve other land for farmland, but you're going to focus on the development around those areas. And then identify and market sites in those target development areas. So once they're identified, start marketing those sites to potential developers of mixed use type projects or whatever other type project you're trying to attract. And then identify and target identified retail and mixed use sustainable developments. So once those potential sites are identified, identify those key developers both locally and in the region that should be the focus of marketing efforts, and build relationships with them if you don't already have them, and schedule meetings with them on a quarterly basis, and that may include visits to identified sites in the community that could be a fit for their project. And then also make them a target audience for social media posts. And then explore future public-private partnerships with developers. One thing that we found, and you'll see, you probably already know this, is these mixed-use development projects, these large ones that are locating in communities, really want to have some kind of public-private partnership with the community. And so that's something that we see and that's going to be necessary as you move forward. Again, it can be using TIF, tax increment financing, which just basically gives back the money from the increased property taxes generated, and it uses that to fund infrastructure for the project, infrastructure that would be needed anyway. And then the idea of new community authorities being created may be another way to approach. There's other things like permitting, expedited permitting, fee reductions, free or reduced land cost if the county or municipality owns the land, designation of a community reinvestment area, and other to be determined. But that is something that you are going to have to look at if this is the direction to go in. And I'll just give you one example. This was the Keystone Project in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is again another one of our benchmarks. And the city council approved this agreement in 2025. It's going to bring apartments, condos, retail, and a hotel to the city center. So it takes care of a lot of those things we talked about. The approved zoning allows for 239 leased dwellings, 80 to 100 for sale units, 80 to 150 hotel rooms, and 30 to 40,000 square feet of retail space. Estimated $150 million investment. They did a TIF agreement and public infrastructure investment. That was their partnership in that project to bring that to fruition. And proceeds from city-owned property sale of $4 million will be used to fund public road improvements, and total of $26 million being spent in public infrastructure. So really, it's more of a investment in your community moving forward. And so your last tactic, I kind of got ahead of myself, but is explore future public-private partnerships with developers to make those projects come to fruition that 78% of the people that took the survey want to see. Okay. Work to attract new diverse housing options. Everybody's worried about housing. It's a problem all over the country. First thing, conduct a housing study of Union County. Be able to identify the lack of available and attainable housing was one of the number one challenges mentioned by stakeholders. So I think there is a need for this countywide housing study so you really understand what that looks like and what you need in the future. Work with partners to develop incentives for attainable or workforce housing developers. Obviously, you're going to want to target developers that do those types of projects. and there'll have to be some kind of possible public-private partnership, but again, it could be part of a mixed-use development like we were just talking about before. Identify and market to local and regional housing developers, similar thing. Explore policies to encourage starter home and infill development. The Ohio Realtors and Greater Ohio Policy Center have developed a guidebook. So look at that, determine if that's something you should consider adopting to really focus more on building new residential units on vacant, abandoned, or underutilized lots and more infill housing. And then continue to host the annual housing summit. I don't know if some of you attended that, but that was something that was back in December 2025. We heard it went very well. Over 100 business leaders attended, so keep doing that annually as long as housing is, a challenge and a concern. Okay, and this is just a mixed-use development example in Madison, Tennessee, that is a $631 million redevelopment plan that includes attainable or workforce housing. And when we say attainable or workforce housing, we're not talking, quote, affordable housing. We are talking housing that's available for teachers and firemen and policemen and other people too, younger people, that they can afford, basically. And so in this particular case, there's 242 attainable condos and apartments, including 51 residences for seniors to make sure seniors have somewhere to go when they are ready to downsize. And the overall plan called for 1,700 housing unit. And the project has received approval for $69.8 million in tax incentives through a TIF. So again, public-private partnership to make these things happen. All right, and then strategy 3. This is near the end here. Support revitalization of Uptown Marysville and other municipality centers. Obviously, you want to ensure the silos at Water and Light comes to fruition because that's going to be a game changer, I think, for Marysville, transformational to Marysville. Embrace the implementation of the Marysville Community Vision Report. I think the author of that might be here today. And then support development in other municipality uptowns or centers. So work with other municipalities in the county, encourage revitalization through retail, restaurant, mixed use, including hotels and other means. So support all the different municipalities on their uptown centers. And then support Union County tourism. So some of these things, like I mentioned, impact tourism, right? The hotels, the retail restaurants. So it's going to be important that they are involved. And then strategy 4, enhance recreational assets. You will be happy to know this is the last strategy. Tactic 1 under this is support the Union County Family YMCA. Obviously, that's of great value to the community. You want it to continue to grow here and be successful. So the idea is to work with them to support a capital campaign for future capital improvements, as well as operating expenses to ensure it can continue to serve the community, and then support additional financial support by the City of Marysville and Union County. And then determine need and feasibility of a new indoor and outdoor sports complex. I mentioned this earlier. It was mentioned in the process that there may be a need for some kind of sports complex, which is a large, area that has fields and courts, and obviously a tourism thing to bring tournaments and that kind of thing here. The idea here would be possibly partnering with the YMCA on something like this. And again, a feasibility study should be done to determine the viability of that, as well as to determine what would be the best location for something like that in the county. And obviously Union County Tourism should be involved in that. And then continue to support trail system development. The efforts of the Union County Parks and Trails Working Group, Let's Roll Union County and its partners continue to work to expand that trail network. And that's something that really is an important amenity to have in a community. So continue to support and make that happen and grow. And I'll just show you one last thing, and then you can ask questions if you have any. This is just an example, Lake Point Sports Complex. This is a development that they did. They did it right off an interstate. There was nothing there before. And it's now 1,300 acres, serves more than 30 sports year-round. I've done gymnastics things there, volleyball things there with my kids. I live in Atlanta, by the way, but 1.1 million visitors each year with $100 million annual impact, economic impact. The Lake Point Champions Center is 170,000 square feet multi-use center. This is the type of thing, 8 major league baseball fields, multi-use fields, 10-court beach volleyball pavilion. This is the type of thing we'd be talking about, maybe not on this as large of a scale, but since that is located there, there are hotels everywhere, there are, food, fast food, and regular restaurants all around it, and so it's been quite a successful venture for that community. So, with that said, Dell, Riley, be prepared. Eric?
Yeah, we're ready for some Q&A. So anyone have questions? A lot of information there. So again, appreciate your participation, but does anyone have questions tonight? It's your chance to have the floor. Sir.
Way around.
Could you state your name and then what your question is? Thank you.
Doug Jenkins. My question is, with Boyett, are you just developing this and it's up to the city and Union County personnel to execute the playbook? Or do you stay within the picture for the next 5 years to offer guidance and insight?
Good question.
We developed plans for her job technically is almost done as we get the implementation matrix done and get the metrics finalized. That doesn't to say that we're not going to be in contact with you to make sure that you're staying on top of things, and that we want to see it implemented as much as you do. Sometimes we do stay on with an economic development organization to help them with the implementation of the plan. Right now, we're just willing, we just want to get through this process and be able to help you move it forward in any way we possibly can.
Yeah.
Other questions? Please state we all know who you are, Steve, but we want you to hear who you are.
Oh, no. That's annoying.
Steve Stolde, been in the community for a little over 50 years. I see a lot of good recommendations up there. I also see an awful lot of work. And I guess following up a little bit on the other gentleman's comment, there's clearly going to have to be some partnerships. There's going to have to be some committees or commissions or something that focus on this, that, or the other to make this happen. And one comment about the plan is the first strategy, the increased collaboration and communication efforts. It's interesting, in the last several years, there's been a number of teams working in Union County as part of the Harwood Institute projects. And that was one thing that jumped out in all those teams that they learned was the importance and the need for increased collaboration and increased communication. So I think that tends to verify for sure that one goal as being an important goal.
Absolutely. And we heard that so much. I think I'm still mic'd, so I'm good. Through the stakeholder engagement process, it was the number one thing that we heard over and over and over again. And, it's always important to collaborate together because you really can't get these things done unless everybody's working together on the same page. And so we're hoping that's what happens with this collaborative group that we recommended to help, with the implementation of the plan. You are right, there is a lot in this plan. Again, it's a 5-year process. We have provided an implementation plan to the team, and that has all of the different strategies, the action items, who's responsible, the year, et cetera, other notes related to it. And that is what will guide, hopefully, the implementation team that's put together moving forward. But, it's not going to be easy. it costs money, it requires time and volunteer time as well as staff time, and it, it's not an easy thing, but I believe, from what we've seen, I mean, obviously your economic development team is great and they work very hard, and I definitely see them moving this forward as long as everybody will collaborate.
I'm going to step out and say, this is one of the best opportunities in the country right now to get it right from an economic development perspective. Marysville Union County is hot. And now it's a very, very critical time to get it right. And it's going to take a lot of things to do right to get it right. And you've got a real opportunity here. And I don't think there's the core team, y'all can chime in here. There's nothing in this strategic plan that cannot be implemented. It may take longer than 5 years on some of it, and I'm not going to lie to you. It's a 5-year plan, but some of it's probably going to take a little longer than 5 years. But if we did not feel like that it could be implemented, it wouldn't be in this strategic plan. The goal of this plan is not to just have something that sounds good today. The goal of this plan is 5 years from now that you've implemented 80% of this, and that this county is a better county for all the people who live here, you 50 years, some 5 years, some that will move here in the next 5 years, to make this place a place for them to improve their quality of life and economic well-being as they move forward as residents of this community and this county.
Other question? Yes, Mr. Board.
I'm going to be easy. Maybe. Zach Bordner, Marysville City Council. Can I ask 2 questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can ask 3.
I just have
3.
I just have 2 questions. So anybody who knows me knows that I really support the second goal, which is diversifying our economic portfolio to ensure a resilient Marysville. You guys heard that from me many, many times, and so have many of you. Now, what I like about the presentation tonight was that there was an acknowledgement of the STEM program that is local to us. But looking at kind of our targeted sector or opportunity sectors, I see a very common trend, and it's ag, it's auto, and it's R&D. Now, I've said this publicly, openly, and emphatically that we have opportunities within our economic portfolio that support the E and the M, so the engineering and the math, but we lack the S and the T, the science and the tech. So I'm interested as to how this plan supports the S and the T and breaking into those economic opportunities.
Well,
R&D's a target too.
yeah, I mean, R&D is obviously a big focus and a big strength that you already have. I think that workforce analytics component is going to be critical because those types of skill deficits do need to be identified. Obviously, this was not a workforce analytics project, but we always look kind of high level at it. And, we did find you have a lot of engineering talent along the corridor. But I believe just everything, the business base that you have with the R&D already, I think the entrepreneur and the innovation area is prime related to that as well. But ag is a big, it's a potential strength with the ag base that you have. I don't disagree with you that there might be a need to focus, on some of the areas that you mentioned, but the science and the math, but that's probably a problem across the country, to be honest. I don't know, Dell, anything to add to that? Riley, any thoughts?
Just kind of maybe exploring opportunities to enhance the tech around some
Can you
of
hear
the
Riley?
existing sectors. So there's a huge existing basis of agriculture in the community. What are the opportunities of ag tech around that? Or the life sciences, for example, coming to this community. I know Eric and his team have done a lot to try and get the community ready for more life sciences growth there. So maybe those could be some of those ways.
Okay. And my second question, hopefully it's easier.
That was a tough one.
I'm gonna start with a comment that I wanted to make is that it's really one thing to put a plan on paper, right? It's the execution of that plan that is of interest to me. So as it's been stated that this is a 5-year plan. I guess my question is, what metrics are or will be in place to manage performance, plan versus actual? Is that something that's been contemplated, discussed, and then how will those metrics and that performance be communicated to county leadership, public leadership, citizens?
You want me to do it first?
And then I think, Eric, go.
Yeah. Oh, you go first. Okay. Okay. Well, I think I mentioned that we have developed metrics. They're in draft format. We're still working through it with the team. But, they're going to measure things, first of all, your typical economic development measurements, which is jobs created, investment, potentially wages, both on the new project creation or new job creation or your existing business expansions. So that's your typical economic development tracking things that you're going to do. But obviously in this, there's also entrepreneurship and innovation will be something that you'll want to track as well. And I think I mentioned that as part of one of the tactics. That will be a metric where you will, once that gets going, you will start tracking the number of startups supported. You will track, their investment over time, their success over time, that type of thing. And so you'll want to track how that works. And there'll be numerous things within the plan that we have, a whole list of items to track. Again, we're still working through it, but it's going to drill down into, okay, how many locations did you have within the corporate headquarters sector, for example? Finance and business services, how many did you have located in that? So there will be concrete measurements that will show that over time. And Del, Eric, you wanted to add something to that.
Honestly, I could even see a plan tracker, if you will, that you share that is, the Forward, Union, Marysville, to where it's there's a number of ways you can do it. You can communicate quarterly, you can communicate twice a year, you can communicate once a year. I think if you just communicate every single month what's going on, it's not relevant enough to do that. But it's almost like that you could once a year convene a group of people and let the people come so you could report to them what's going on with the Forward Marysville Union Plan, what you've implemented, what you haven't, the obstacles that what's got in the way, what needs to be happened, what your plans are for the next year. Because your implementation matrix that we have put together with you is a living, changing document. I mean, it's going to, you might say it's going to be done the next 30 days, but it may end up taking 3 years. That's typically not the case. But those things that we put in year 2, that we think the resources, that you're not going to have the resources available, you're not going to have the human capital available to get it done, will be in year 2. Sometimes it's moved up depending on circumstances. Sometimes it's pushed out. But that's done with communicating with your implementation team that's actually working on it and being transparent about everything.
Yeah, and that's recommended in the plan, is to do an annual kind of report out, communicate that through social media, communicate through your website, and communicate in person. And then also meeting regularly with your elected officials, at least quarterly or more, because you meet with them already a lot, to inform them.
I'm going to say something, I'm not blowing smoke here. This happened, and Bill, you're sitting right behind him. I just told Bill before we were setting up front talking before we got up here and presented this. We've been in business 21 years. We've been doing this for this kind of stuff for over 20 years now. It's hard to believe, but we have. We wanted to do this work. When we got this RFP, usually you don't respond to RFPs because, you're a firm like ours, you can go out of business responding to RFPs, right? We didn't know anybody here. I didn't know Bill, didn't know Inga, didn't know Terry, didn't know Eric, and I called some people because to me, Marysville, Union County had a brand. It had a brand that I knew, even though wasn't from Ohio, but it was a brand that people know Marysville. And they know Marysville, a lot of reasons for a number of them, but whether you like it or not, they know Marysville because of Honda. The first Honda was right here in Marysville, Ohio. And that's how people know Marysville, Ohio. That's how I thought. But we want to do this work. But I didn't know if we should even propose. So I called a couple of people in the economic development community that we've done work before. They both said, yes, you should. So we proposed. I didn't think we had a chance, and you know what? We're getting this work. But I thought, you know what? Every now and then you got to take that risk. If you want to do the work, sometimes you got to take a chance to go for it. And we went for it, and we got it. And I was telling Bill up front this before we started, is that there was a core team that we worked with. You know, Bill and Terry and Inga. It wasn't just the economic development team. It was your county manager, city manager, and the other members of the core team that participated in nearly every call from the very beginning. From the time that we interviewed to get this work, from the time that we did the pre-launch call, from when we launched the call, to where we came here and we met with over 100 people face-to-face, to where we gave updates when we did the survey, the approval for what was going to be on the survey with the core team. We took it, there was buy-in across the board. Now, is it a perfect plan? No, but it's a darn good plan. And it's a good plan, and the reason it's a good plan is because there were 1,800 people that participated in the process. We gave everybody the opportunity. And we left that survey open, 3 weeks longer than we said we were going to give people the opportunity to participate. This is not a perfect plan, but you had to have a plan. You're at a crossroads. You're at a crossroads of people who live here. You got a crossroads of companies that are going to invest here, the types of companies you want to invest here or you don't want to invest here. We've heard and listened and researched all of that. It may look simplistic, but there's 250 pages of appendices to this document alone. I think that's the right number.
Close to it.
244, whatever.
That's the exact number.
244?
Mm-hmm.
244.
Good job.
Good job. I'll do something right every now and then. But I'm telling you, you've got a good plan. You had to have a good plan. And this plan, it has to be implemented. It's going to take resources to implement it. But most importantly, it's going to take the support of everybody in this room, working together. It's going to take the support of the Economic Development Organization and others communicating and being transparent about what's going on with what you can be transparent about. So, we do have another question.
Oh.
Great. No,
He's got a third.
we have one.
Good question.
Here you go. We have time for like two more questions, quick. Yes.
Okay, the one main question that keeps popping in my mind is I've sat in on the visioning for Marysville quite a bit. I haven't as much on this. And are they going to be able to, is everything going to be cohesive together with what Marysville's already been spending money and working on also? I just want to hear that from you guys. Is it cohesive to Marysville's visioning plan?
That's going to be up to y'all.
Well, we have reviewed the plan, and that plan, the visioning plan, and other plans. We've reviewed a lot of plans. And, we also talked to Ed. Ed. And that was very helpful as well. So we did coordinate on that since that was kind of happening at the same time. And we think the visioning plan looked great. That's why we said it needs to be adopted. I think that certainly this is, what's the word I'm looking for? Very compatible with that plan. I don't think there's.
This is an economic development strategic plan that's compatible
Correct.
with the vision for the community as well.
Yes.
100%.
Well, you're right. And that's why the first thing in this plan is to collaborate and work together.
The other
That's
thing-
the most important part.
No. No, the other thing is too, this is compatible with the comprehensive plan that the city's going to be updating theirs, but it's also the Union County just updated theirs. It's all compatible. It's a component of all those. This is just more of a business strategy of what kind of businesses we want to attract, and that's what the focus, that's the component of those plans. So they're all compatible. They all work together, and they've all been reviewed as part of this. Okay, we're going to close out. We have another event here, actually at 7. There's some people coming in at 7:30, so we need to close out. But we appreciate everyone's time. If you have any questions, send me an email. I can give you my card. You can, if you don't have it, we can get those answers or answers to your questions. Let us know. We appreciate your time, your effort tonight. Thank you for your interest in Marysville and Union County. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Answer your question.
Yeah, those were good questions.
Yeah.